the nights grow long and cold. The world is veiled in darkness. You may feel something calling from the mists, reaching out from the shadows, staring from the distance. For the ancient groups of Britain, winter brought a time of great spiritual activity, the merge of the mortal world and land of the spirits, the ancestors and the fairies. In winter, when the world was at its darkest, the gate was open to the creatures most feared. In the most ancient times on this island, we know for the Brittonic Celts, the dark nights of winter all held strong spiritual symbolism. The other world was full of spirits and deities, both good and evil, and the fabric between the mortal and the other world was porous, seeping into each other's worlds. Now there is mystery around the belief system of those groups, and although there was no single unified belief among Celtic groups, tribes likely shared customs. Surviving Irish Celtic beliefs could help us understand the perspective of early Britons. Poignant times in Celtic belief were the turning points in the natural world, liminal spaces where the gates between worlds open for a brief time and increase the spiritual presence in the mortal realm. Whether that be the reflection on a lake, walking through the mists, the falling of the sun at dusk, or most importantly, a turning point in the dark half of the Celtic year. This was the point of Samhain, the likely origin of Halloween. The stories describe this time as when spirits and demons lurked within the dark and the restless dead awakened on earth. One of the most famous Irish folktales, Ectra and the Rye, tells of a warrior who crosses into the other world, where he learns of a supernatural threat on Samhain and carries a warning back to his people. The Anglo-Saxons also feared the supernatural powers of winter. Although much of their worldview is lost, we know from the Scott of Bede that the eve of the winter solstice was Modra Night, an important spiritual night honouring ancestral mothers or protective spirits. The midwinter held deep religious significance, and while we don't know what this meant for the rest of winter, texts like the Lagnanga, a book of Old English charms and remedies, show that the Anglo-Saxons believed the world was filled with supernatural threats, demonic beings, harmful spirits, and the living dead. Maybe the most harrowing describe a night-riding spirit, a mare, believed to sit on a sleeper's chest in the dark, causing terror, paralysis, and suffocation. Among the other Germanic tribes of Europe was the fear of the wild hunt and wandering ghosts of the winter. The wild hunt would appear in midwinter with a pack of spectral hunters and hounds sweeping through the land, taking souls and spreading fear, a belief likely shared by the Anglo-Saxons. Supernatural fears carried into much later folklore beliefs as well. In the 1600s, the scholar John Aubrey recorded folk practices that survived in Christian Britain. He described rituals around the Yule, the 12 nights, and the winter solstice, the longest night. Many of these were folk traditions that were meant to protect homes from spirits, witches, and fairies, who were believed to still roam the winter darkness. One of the most symbolic practices was the burning of the Yule log. Lit on Christmas Eve and kept burning until the 12th night, its fires pushed back the darkness at the turning point of the year, and the ashes were scattered as a protective charm over the household. Winter nights were seen as vulnerable even in Christian times, and superstitions around supernatural beings remained. I think one other important thing to note is just how cold it can get even in the south of England where I am. In the winter, it is bitter. But it's no surprise. In days of old, life in the Northern Hemisphere was harsh. Winter wasn't just a spiritual time, it had real dangers. Winter brought bitter cold and dark nights that put people at genuine danger of exposure, disease, predators, and other people too. And when you're living in the remote and isolated, where communities were small and engulfed by the dark, it would be natural to be paranoid of the noises and shapes in the shadows. Perhaps it's in that paranoia that stories of ghosts and demons were born. When you were afflicted with illness brought by the cold, perhaps a spirit had cursed you. Or when food stores went bad and you were left starving, perhaps a harmful spirit had tainted your goods. But within that was the fire, a source of warmth and light, and it became protection not only from the elements and beasts in the shadows, but the supernatural too. Over time, we've lost much of the supernatural beliefs of winter like our ancestors held, but the haunting significance of winter survives through the stories, like that of Dickens' Christmas Carol. Perhaps it is in the safety of modernity that we've lost that connection to the dark and sinister. Or perhaps, as we see in the likes of the Christmas Carol, the spirits and demons of winter no longer materialise as the real threats of long, cold, dark nights, because we don't feel the same threat anymore, but have instead taken on a new meaning to match the cultural needs of ghost stories, and has given way to more sacred Christian traditions. As we continue the descent into the cold and dark, up to Christmas, I'll be bringing weekly haunting ghost tales. Until then, double check the shadowy corners, don't follow the lights, and ignore what calls you from the mists. Because who knows what could be lurking in these hallowed times.